Well, good afternoon, everyone. Let me first of all just say thank you so much for joining us as we continue to work day and night to recover from this historic but also horrific storm. I want to thank you for keeping the nation's attention on those who are hurting in Georgia, and I certainly appreciate President Trump helping us do that as well. You know, Marty and I both had literally been all over the state on the storm path over the last several days, and I told every stop I went to that this storm spared no one. It took one of our finest and a firefighter, Leon Davis, who was an assistant chief in Blackshear, Georgia, when a tree fell on his truck responding to a call. Just a few miles from here, it took a young mother, just 27 years old, who had 1-month-old twin boys in the bed with her when a tree fell in their home up in Thompson. Just south of here in Washington County, a 7-year-old boy and a 4-year-old girl died when a tree fell on their home, trapped them inside, and their house caught on fire. Marty and I had the opportunity to speak to the emergency crews who responded to both of those situations, and our hearts are still heavy from that tragic event that they experienced and described to us, but also for what they had to endure. There was also a lady trapped in her car for 3 or 4 days, another trapped in her home for the same amount of time. Thankfully, they were rescued by some of our finest. But we've heard of many other horrific stories like this. And all in all, Georgians, we have lost 33 of our fellow citizens as a direct result of Hurricane Helene. But I'm here to tell you, in spite of such tragedy and heartbreak, in spite of the pain that we've seen, there are many stories of hope and perseverance. Over the course of this past week, Marty and I traveled to Valdosta and Augusta and many communities in between. We spent time with linemen from all over the country who came to Georgia to help those in need and get their power back on. We prayed with grieving people and had the honor of shaking hands of those who have worked without sleep, hardly taking any breaks, and without slowing down to get those trapped in homes free. They were feeding those without food and getting housing for those that no longer had a home. In Glasscock County, just up the road, we spent time with the sheriff and his family, all of whom were working around the clock. In Johnson County, not far from here, there's a small church that's serving as a miracle for their community. That congregation did not even exist a few months ago, but this past week they were feeding 400 to 600 people a day. In Sandersville, a pastor prayed for us and commented on the beautiful message on Marty's shirt that she wore for several days in Valdosta, when we were in Valdosta, in red letters that spelled out simply pray. That's a message we all need right now. And I ask that all of you join our family in continuing to pray for those devastated by Hurricane Helene. On Tuesday night, we met linemen in a small Mexican restaurant who came from literally hundreds and hundreds of miles away, from New Jersey, Massachusetts, Chicago, and other places. I joked with the guy from Massachusetts, we normally don't let y'all come down here to Georgia. But I told him how much we were glad to have him, and we appreciated the work that they were doing. The next morning, we tried to go see a bunch of linemen that were having breakfast at one of the tent cities they had set up at a staging site that had over 500 trucks and over 1,000 people. We got out of the car at 6:30 a.m. before the sun was even up, and most of these hard-working people had already eaten breakfast and were walking out to go crank their truck to start working to get people's power back up whom they've never met. Those same linemen were going to keep working well into the night. That is the kind of response that we have seen after this crisis from Georgians and from people far beyond in this state. Resilience and hope have been on full display everywhere we've gone, including right here in Columbia County. We're grateful for those incredible people all over this state, but we're also mindful that every moment of every day since this storm passed, of the loss of life and the devastation that it brought. We knew it was going to be bad, which is why we prepared early, just like they did here in Columbia County. I declared a state of emergency 2 days ahead of the storm. which gave us time to mobilize and prepare for the worst. And I'm so glad that we did, because it impacted literally every part of our state. Many communities have been scarred with major infrastructure damage, and at one point, at least 1.3 million power meters were not functional, and many more Georgians were without power. That number, incredibly, is down to 225,000 as we speak. In Atlanta, we saw record rainfall with 11.12 inches of rain in a 48-hour period. The previous state record goes back to 1886, when we had 9.6 inches. As many people around the country know, we are in an agricultural state, with agriculture serving as our #1 industry. Hurricane Helene has wiped out much of this year's crop across the board. Our Agriculture Commissioner, Tyler Harper, couldn't be here today, but he wanted me to pass along a few highlights of this devastation. 35% of our cotton crop is a total loss. 10 to 30% of the peanut crop is lost. 14 dairies across the state are still without power. There was 22 total from the start. Over 222 poultry houses have been destroyed, with hundreds of others damaged and some loss of operations for the entire farm. There's extensive infrastructure damage and loss of livestock facilities. And as I told the President earlier, approximately 4 million acres of timberland has been impacted, and 48,000 acres of pecans have been damaged or destroyed as a result of this storm. I want everyone in this state to know that we are with you during these difficult times, and we aren't going anywhere. We are putting every possible state resource we have at response and recovery, and I've taken several executive authority steps to try to bring relief as quickly as we can. That includes activating and deploying roughly 2,000 Georgia Guardsmen, our citizen soldiers who are doing incredible work in the field. It includes suspending the gas tax for as long as we're under a state of emergency and waiving the penalty on the use of dyed diesel fuel in street vehicles. I want to thank the members of the General Assembly. I know we got some of them here with us today for supporting all of these measures. They are crucial partners in our overall response to this tragic event and have been tireless advocates for the Georgians they represent. And we'll continue to urge FEMA to add more impacted counties to the federal declaration list. We started with just 11, and after a call to both the White House and FEMA, they upped that number considerably, up to 44 or 45 counties as we speak. We're also being mindful of our neighbors who have come to our aid in times past. Yesterday, I authorized the Georgia Guard to send a Chinook helicopter and crew to North Carolina to help in ongoing search and rescue operations. What they're going through, what we're all going through, is a living nightmare, and we're going to continue to pull together as we go through this together. These are just a few of the actions that we've taken, but rest assured, we will not stop until everyone is recovered and made whole. Someone sent me a Bible verse earlier today, and I've been thinking a lot about this. It's Galatians 6:9, and it reads, "And let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up." Those words epitomize where we are today and our commitment. We are not giving up. We are not going to leave until the job is done. I want to encourage all of our local officials and so many of their citizens that are working so hard on this recovery and helping and talking to people every day. Keep up that great work. Keep the faith, and know that we will be with you till the end. It is my honor, and I want to thank President Trump for coming back to our state again for the second time to view storm damage and keep a national focus on our state as we recover.